Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing all right today, and I hope you're sitting somewhere comfortable, because this story about Sean Diddy Combs is one of those that makes you shake your head and wonder how life can twist and turn so quickly. Imagine being one of the most powerful men in music, a man who had it all: fame, fortune, luxury, and influence. And now finding yourself behind prison walls, trying to find a bit of peace in a place that doesn't care who you used to be. They say Diddy has now officially been transferred to Fort Dix Federal Correctional Institution in New Jersey, a move his legal team is calling a small victory. But to a lot of people out there, it's a reminder that no matter how big you are, life has a way of humbling you. The story goes that Judge Aaron didn't recommend that Diddy go to Fort Dix, but the Federal Bureau of Prisons ended up sending him there anyway, supposedly because his sentence was shorter and they didn't want to risk mixing him with long-term inmates who have little to lose. The move has raised a lot of eyebrows, people wondering if it's a favor or just the system's way of handling things quietly. Diddy's team, of course, is spinning it as a good thing, saying he'll be able to work on his issues, attend rehabilitation programs, and have more opportunities for family visits. They're trying to make it sound like a story of redemption, a story of a man turning a new leaf. But many out here can't help but ask, what about the people whose lives were broken along the way? What about the ones who don't have publicists and lawyers to paint a new picture for them? It's hard to ignore those questions, especially when you think about how many chances people like Diddy get compared to the ordinary folks who make one mistake and spend the rest of their lives trying to make it right. Now, they're saying Diddy began his check-in process early Thursday morning, settling into his new home for what's expected to be the next 2.5 years. Can you imagine that moment? Walking into a new reality, surrounded not by luxury, but by cold walls, metal bars, and the sound of doors clanging shut. The same man who once threw million-dollar parties now has to wake up to a whistle and lights that never truly go off. There's something almost poetic about it, and maybe tragic too. His lawyers say this move will allow him to address his drug use and reconnect with his family. That sounds nice on paper, but some people think there's more to it. That being in New Jersey keeps him closer to the people and the power circles that once protected him. There's even talk that he wanted to be near New York because it's still his playground, the city where he built his empire, and maybe deep down he's not ready to let go of that control. And yet, for all his money and charm, he's now just inmate number whatever they've assigned, facing the same rules as everyone else. People say Fort Dix is one of the easier prisons, with dorm-style housing and relatively calm conditions, but it's still prison. And it's a long way from the mansions of Los Angeles and the private jets that once flew him across the world. Some insiders say he's already been warned to watch his back, that even in low-security prisons, tempers flare and jealousy can brew fast. They even claim someone once tried to harm him in the Brooklyn facility where he was held before, a frightening moment that left his team on edge. Diddy's lawyers have played up that story too, suggesting he could be in danger behind bars. But many out there can't help but shake their heads, thinking how ironic it is. The man who used to make others fear him, now living with fear himself. It's strange how life balances the scales. When you look at him now, sitting in a place designed to strip away ego and pride, you can't help but think about all the years he spent building an image of invincibility. There was a time he could walk into any room and people would fall silent. Now he has to ask permission just to make a phone call. The Bureau of Prisons projects his release date as May 8, 2028, but that's only if everything goes well. His lawyers are already talking about appeals, pardons, and early release. They always do. They say he's a model inmate, that he's calm, respectful, and focused. Maybe he is. Or maybe he's just realizing what most people eventually do, that when everything's taken from you, the only thing left to fix is yourself. Still, people can't help but feel uneasy seeing him in a place meant for nonviolent offenders, when his own history is anything but nonviolent. Many victims and their families are wondering where the justice is in that. How does someone accused of so many dark things end up in one of the softest prisons in the system? Some call it privilege, others call it luck, but whichever it is, it doesn't erase what's been done. Diddy might get better food, more sunlight, and easier days, but that won't change how people see him now. It's a hard fall, and it's not over yet. Some say he's trying to use this time to write, reflect, maybe even plan a comeback. But you can't rebuild a legacy when trust is gone, and for so many who once admired him, the shine has completely faded. Imagine being his family, hearing his name dragged through the headlines day after day. His mother, his children, they didn't ask for this, but they're carrying that weight too. His lawyer said he misses them terribly, that he's anxious and emotional, that he's clinging to the hope of a second chance. Maybe he really is. Time has a way of softening even the hardest hearts, and prison has a way of showing a man who he really is. But for all the sympathy some might feel, there's still a deep sense of unease, because while he sits in a dormitory-style room, others who crossed his path are still living with scars that can't be erased. It's easy to talk about rehabilitation when you're surrounded by lawyers and cameras, but it's harder to talk about it when you're the one who suffered. People are asking, can a man like Diddy really change? Or is he just playing the same game, waiting for the next move, hoping the world will forget? His attorneys say he deserves life after this, that he's been through enough, that he's learned his lesson. Maybe they believe that. Maybe he even believes that. But redemption doesn't come through public statements. It comes through humility, silence, and time. And time is something he has plenty of now. They say he's in low spirits some days, that he spends his hours reading, reflecting, and trying to keep busy. He's reportedly staying away from trouble, keeping to himself, staying out of gossip and arguments. That's probably smart, because in a place like Fort Dix, even a whisper can turn into a storm. Inmates might recognize him, might even want to challenge him, if only to prove a point. It's not easy being famous behind bars. Everyone's watching, everyone's waiting to see if you'll crack. And yet, despite it all, he's still holding on to the idea of freedom, still believing he'll get out earlier than 2028. His lawyer Mark Garagos insists Diddy will be released sooner, though even he admits it depends on many variables. Maybe good behavior, maybe legal maneuvering, maybe something else entirely. But whatever happens, this chapter of his life is one that money can't buy him out of. For all his power and influence, the walls of Fort Dix won't bend for him. He'll have to follow orders, wait in lines, and eat the same food as everyone else. There's something almost cleansing about that. A man who once ruled everything now learning to be ordinary. Some people see it as justice, others see it as too soft. But maybe it's just life doing what it does best, reminding us that no one is above consequence. When you think about it, this isn't just Diddy's story. It's a story about choices, pride, and how the past has a way of catching up no matter how far you run. Maybe in a strange way, this time in Fort Dix will do something no court ever could. Give him the quiet space to face himself, without excuses, without distractions. People say 2.5 years will fly by, but that depends on what kind of years they are. For Diddy, they'll be the kind where every day feels longer, where every sound echoes a little louder, and where every night you lie awake wondering how everything slipped away. And maybe that's the real punishment. Not the bars or the guards, but the silence that forces you to remember. As for the rest of us watching, maybe it's a reminder too. A reminder that life has no favorites, and that no matter how high you climb, one wrong turn can take you right back to the ground. We can only hope that by the time he walks out of Fort Dix, he'll have learned something real. Not just how to rebuild his image, but how to rebuild his soul. Because for all the fame, the wealth, the music, and the headlines, what's left when the lights go out is the man you really are. And maybe that's what Diddy's finally discovering now. The man behind the name, the human behind the myth, and the price that comes with living a life built on power instead of peace.